about 85, 90 miles an hour, sliding a bit. Knock the speed off.
Good evening and welcome to Rally Report 85, the first of two editions this evening. Well, at last, after weeks and months of practice and preparation and winding themselves up, the drivers in this year's Lombard RAC Rally are at last underway. 155 entries, making it easily the biggest event in the world rallying calendar. The cars ranging from the £100,000 supercars of the works teams to, for example, a rebuilt Lada taxi with 80,000 miles on the clock, entered by Peter Goodwin, a mechanic from Essex, because of course this event hangs on to the long tradition of letting the ordinary club man have a go. But on the first day, all eyes were on the stars, and the big question beating in every British heart must have been, can those four-wheel drive Metros in the hands of Tony Pond and Michael Wilson end the long string of foreign victories in this particular event? The start was at Woollerton Park on the outskirts of Nottingham, and long before it was light, the spectators began turning up in their thousands, despite the nip in the air and the wintry drizzle. So the competition cars were in their park, the drivers were pulling on their gloves and helmets, and Sue Baker managed to grab a last word with Walter Royal, driving the second team Audi.
Walter, everyone's intrigued by this gearbox you have in your car. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It's quite easy. I have to use clutch to start the car, and after I never have to use clutch, just to touch the pin, and I have the next gear. I have not to go away from accelerating, always full power. It's like an automatic gearbox.
So that's a great advantage to you on some of these slippery stages.
Yeah, but of course we also have some bad sides. It's 35 kilos heavier in front, and we just have a standard rapport. It means we are much too long in top speed, 250 or something like this.
This is an experimental gearbox, so how much is this an experimental rally for you, or are you really all out to win?
It's absolutely just the question. I have to test this gearbox, and nobody's even thinking that we are able to come to the finish.
This is said to be an event you're not particularly fond of because of the lack of pace notes, is that right?
Yes, that's right, but of course I think it's the same as for everybody. That is not a problem, but for myself it's just to try to stay as long as possible in the race, to get a lot of experience with this new gearbox.
Now, normally the start of this rally is a sort of ritual event in the centre of the town somewhere, and then the cars trundle off 20 miles or so to the first special stage. But here the start is for real. The cars are being driven in anger right off the line. Let me hand over now to our rally commentator, Brian Jones.
The 1985 World Rally Championship is into its final round, and here at Woollerton Park we see Timo Salonen, the 1985 World Champion, actually starting this stage in Woollerton Park. For the first time, the RAC Rally is actually starting right into a special stage, and so Salonen has, right through the gate, had to go against the clock, and we have times, unofficial times, that are going to tell us what the standard is that he's going to set. This, of course, is the Peugeot 205 T16, which has perhaps surprised the rallying world by taking the 1985 World Championship. Salonen the Finn is really into nowhere to go, and there's a huge crowd here at Woollerton Park to watch him. 94 miles an hour as he comes down to brake for this very, very tight left-hander, and then powering away. Remember, this is a four-wheel drive turbocharged car, and sliding on the exit, we come up to the line to see just what his time will be through the stage. I must emphasize this is an unofficial time, and as he goes through at the end of the first stage, it's 1 minute 29.16 seconds.
He has gone.
Hannu Mikkola in the Audi, 43 years of age, vastly experienced, a regular racer on the British rallying scene. 7 times since 1977 has he been in the top 3. And Hannu Mikkola has won the event 4 times. Here he comes, 85 miles an hour, we see on the speed trap as he comes down into the left hand. With his record, Hannu Mikkola must surely be one of the favourites to win the Lombard Rally of 1985. Up to the finishing line he goes, and we see a time of 1:32. Marco Allen, 34 years of age. And of course, this car is most interesting because it has a combination of supercharging and turbocharging in order to try to eliminate the turbo lag, which affects the turbocharged cars. Marco Allen has been with Lancia for 12 years, and so he's been very faithful to them. 95 miles an hour, 98 I see, as he comes down towards us, and I do believe that that's the quickest we've seen so far. A good start, therefore, for the Lancia Delta S4. Sliding the car on the exit of the right-hander. Despite the four-wheel drive, the surface is very slippery, and now Marco Allen goes up to the line. That time will take him into the lead on the first stage. No doubt where the loyalties lie. Here comes Tony Pond. The huge crowd very interested to see just how this Austin Rover Group car is going to do in the rally this year. Let's wish Tony Pond the best of luck, because if you recall last year, his rally ended rather early. In fact, on the very first stage. So Tony Pond, I'm quite sure, will be giving it the gun, but nonetheless taking care to see that he doesn't have such an early demise in 1985. This is a fascinating car. Remember that this one is a normally aspirated engine, basically 3 litres. It develops 410 horsepower, so immensely powerful. It's light, and of course it's four-wheel drive, and so it is very, very hot, not favourite, but certainly very well favoured for the event. 72 miles per hour. Well, we shall certainly want to see a quicker speed than that as the rally progresses. Tony Pond and Rob Arthur, his co-driver, down into the left-hander. And remember that this car has had its successes this year, but I think Tony Pond was being very careful on the first special stage. Malcolm Wilson flying the flag for Great Britain, and here he is in the second of the MG Metro 6R4s. Very promising hope for the future as he gains in experience and maturity as a rally driver. And looking very good at the moment on this fast section of the course. Remember, the stage is 1.1 miles long. Not the quickest. Now that's interesting because of course it is the second comparatively slow straight line speed that we've recorded for the 6R4s. You will recall that Tony Pond's speed also was comparatively slow compared with the Lancias and the Quattros. However, Malcolm Wilson making a very good time there at 1:30.89, so his overall time is a competitive one.
Well, Woollerton Park may have been short, but it was as slippery as an ice rink with all that mud about, and immediately 2 or 3 things became clear. One is that the Lancias are very quick indeed. The other is that this year the two-wheel drive cars are at an even bigger disadvantage than ever. 10, 12-second gap opened up after only 1 stage. And as the cars completed the other Midland stages, short and fast and mainly tarmac, so the story repeated itself. So here's the leaderboard after the first 7 stages. The Lancias in the lead with Marco Allen and Henry Toivonen. Hotly pursued by Timo Salonen, the Peugeot, the man most strongly tipped to win this year's rally. But look at those Metros. Malcolm Wilson in 4th place, Tony Pond in 8th, firmly anchored on the leaderboard. Long may they remain there. Today's heroic story, well, I think car number 79, they broke the throttle cable on the stage, and the co-driver finished the stage sitting on the wing, operating the throttle manually. Such things, I'm sure, are the myths of rallying today. This programme, of course, is really just a taster for tonight's programme, 11:10, half an hour, covering all the stages from Woollerton Park to the Forest of Dean, and picking up on one of the main stories to break in this year's rally so far. Is it too tough an event, even for the Iron Men of motorsport? So see you tonight at 11:10.